Hi, my name is Nur Hidayah binti Hamdan and my matrix number is 2019411346.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Nur Fadila binti Ismail. My matric ID is 2019254636 and I will explain about ERT.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Najib Sofia binti Hamdan. My matrix number is 2019-26192 and I will present to you about three decision statement and their output.
Assalamualaikum, nama saya Nur Hafizah binti Muhammad Daud 2019402018.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Najira binti Azizan. My student ID is 2019274384 and I will present to you about joint query and sub-query question with the output.
The title of the project is Student Hostel Registration System for University Malaya. There are three objectives of this proposed web application system. The first one is to maintain a lot of data, such as the number of student hostel it can accommodate, hostel fee, and so on. So, it needs the system which has an ability to capture all kinds of data and information and analyze it properly for smooth functioning of the hostel. For example, the system can conduct research in improving computers data management by introducing the use of relational database management system. This system will secure all of the student data and information and can make it easier for institution management to access the students' data. Next, making the registration process accessible anywhere to the student is also one of the objectives of this project. This is because by having the student registration and admission management system, students no need to wait in a long queues to collect and submit forms. They can register their college easily and submit all the relevant documents with the click of the mouse. So it can help in reduce the burden for all of the students and also will help to reduce the use of many documents papers. In addition, objective of this project is also to develop an integrated database system for the student college registration system of University Malaya. Without any physical human interaction, this system may automate the registration procedure. By having this automated process, time will be saved and the common errors also will be eliminated. With the requirement of a registration process for each semester, it will become even more vital to streamline a time-consuming process. The achievement of the objective above can help the students and institutions in managing the resources efficiently. Based on our own findings, internet research and some surveys from students who have studied at University Malaya, there are some issues that we have been detected. The most significant issues we discovered are data loss. Data loss is happening when data is inadvertently lost or when data is corrupted by something. Data may be unreadable by humans and machines due to the virus, physical damage, or formatting errors. This situation can be seen on where staff must keep track of the students' information and currently store student data in a manual method. Next issue is that many papers are used to record the data. Paper may take up a lot of space and the amount of paper produced every day is increasing. Furthermore, documents also should be placed nearby to the hand so that they may be accessible quickly. Paper is also environmentally harmful and does little to improve the green credentials. For example, the staff print and save the student's list name and need to open the file and look for the student's name on registration day to manually generate the room according to the list of residential college units. Time consuming to find the data whenever it is needed is also the issue that have been detected. Due to the manual nature of the procedure, transferring data from the site of collection to the center of the assimilation data and analysis will take a long time. It can be quite time-consuming for staff, and this is unavoidable. In particular, the staff will need more time to locate the student's name because they will need to look through several sheets of paper and possibly every file to validate the student's information. They must review it to ensure that the information is correct and that no deduction have been made in the name list registration.
Now, we move to entity relationship diagram, which is a final ERD for student hostel registration system for University Malaya.
Based on this ERD, we can see that there are 5 entities. From student entities to staff entity, we can see that there is a bridge entity, which is a registration entity, because the connectivity between students and staff is a many to many. For student entities, the primary key is student ID, and the address attribute is student first name, student last name, date of birth, gender, phone number, and student email. And for registration, we have a primary key student ID. Second primary key is staff ID. For foreign key 1, and there is a many symbols. So the key 1 is student ID, and there is also many symbol. And the foreign key 2 is staff ID. So the connectivity between student in registration is one to many, because each student can register by many registration, but each registration can only register by only one student. The connectivity between staff and registration is also one to many, because a staff can handle by many registration, but each registration can only handle by one staff. As for staff entity, we have a primary key staff ID, and the other attribute is staff first name, staff last name, gender, phone number, and staff email. For hostel entities, we have a primary key hostel code, hostel name, hostel capacity, and foreign key is staff ID, because there is a many symbol. So the connectivity between staff and hostel is one to many.
We can see that between staff and hostel have a dotted line, so there is a weak relationship.
So room entity, there is a primary key, room ID, furniture code, room capacity, floor number, and a foreign key hostel code, because there is a many symbol. So the connectivity between hostel to room is a one to many, because one hostel can contain many rooms, but each room can only contained by one hostel.
This is a table that we have in our database. The first table is student, the second table is registration, the third table is staff, the fourth table is hostel, and the fifth table is the room table. Next, we will import all the student values in the student table. Then we will see the output of the student table. Here is student ID, student first name, student last name, student date of birth, student gender, student phone number, and student email. Next is the values of staff. We will import all the staff value in staff table, which is staff ID, staff first name, staff last name, staff gender, staff phone number, and staff email. Next is table registration. We will import all the registration values, which is student ID, staff ID, date of week, and fee per sem. Next is values of hostel, which is hostel code, hostel name, hostel capacity, and staff ID. And the last one is room values, which is room ID, furniture code, room capacity, floor number, and hostel code.
Simple SQL query. Comparison operator. Question 1. List all the staff details except staff identification equal to SB2X751. Okay, the question 1 has to list all the staff details except staff ID SB2X751. So, of course, because we want to list all of staff details, so we select directly from staff table and add staff ID SB2X751. This symbol is mean accept. So when we run, So we get this. All of this is staff ID that accept the SB2X71. Question 2. List hotel code, furniture code, and room capacity of all rooms where room capacity is greater than 3. Arrange the result according to ascending furniture code. Okay, based on the question, we need to list hotel code, furniture code, room capacity. So we select all this. Okay, from all room, of all room. So we need this from table room. Then this is state the room capacity are greater than 3. So here we write where room capacity are greater than 3. Then the question 1 is to arrange furniture code in ascending. So we write like this. So when we run all of this, the output is like this. So we can see the room capacity are greater than 3. Question 3. Display all the fee that occur on the 31 March 2021. Okay, for this question, we need to list all the fee that have occurred on 31 March 2021. So we select from the register table. So we write here where that date of fee equal to 21/3/31. So we write like this because the question 1 only on 31 March 2020. So when we run this, so this is the output. Logical operator. Question 1. Display the student identification for which the date of birth after 29 October 2002 and the gender is male. Okay, we need to display student ID which is the date of birth after 29 October 2002 and the gender is male. So we select student ID, student first name, student last name, and student date of birth from, of course, student table. So this is what the question 1. So after, so we can see here, after 29 October 2002 and the gender is male. So when we run this, so there's only one output. Question 2. List the names and the capacity of all room where room capacity is equal to 1 or room capacity is equal to 2. Okay, for this question, the question 1, room ID and room capacity. So we select this room ID and room capacity from, of course, room table. But the question has stated that the room capacity equal to 1 or the room capacity equal to 2. So we write like this. This is what also stated in the question. So we run the statement. So this is the output over here. Question 3. We want to see a listing of all room from room ID is not G220. Okay. Okay, this question want us to list all the room that not G220. The room ID is not G220. So before this, there is a question. It write as except. Except we use that symbol. That symbol, this symbol, and this symbol, and this symbol. This is for except. But for not, we just write where not. Where not. Room ID equal to G220. So of course, when we need list all the room, so we directly write select from room. Where not, room ID is equal to G220. So we run this, and there is the output. Is the output. Special operators. Question 1. If you want to see a listing for all fee percent whose fee are between 819 ringgit and 945 ringgit. Okay. This question states that we need to list all of the fee that is fee percent between 819 and 945 ringgit. So we directly write select from registration. Okay. And where is fee percent between these two? Like this state in the question. So 819 and 945 ringgit. So we will see the output. Okay, so we run. So this is the output. So if you can see fee percent, so the output is between 890 ringgit and 945 ringgit. So like 882 ringgit is between the two amounts. So this is the output. Question 2. Find all student rows that have a last name ending with the letter D. Okay, the question 1 is to list all the student last name that ending with D. So of course we select student ID, student first name and student last name. So from of course student table. So this is what the question 1. Student last name like D. If like this, it means it's ending with D. If we put the D in front of this percentage symbol, it means it start with D. Last name is start with D. So we want ending with D. So we put D at the back of percentage symbol. So when we run this, we will see the output that the student last name is ending with D. Khalid, Murad, Ahmad, Mahmud and Arshad. All this is ending with D. Question 3. Display all unit staff that exist in the hostel table. Okay. For this question, we need to list all the unique staff ID that from hostel table. When we see the words unique in the question, it means we need to use this thing. This thing mean like if there is repeating staff ID in the hostel table, so the output will not write the same staff ID at the output. So we write select distinct staff ID. So remember, if we see unique, it means we need to use distinct. So from the hostel table. So of course we need from hostel table. So we will run this. So it's okay. You can see the output. There is no repeating or the same staff ID right in the output. Column function and grouping. Question 1. Calculate the number of unit staff that exists in hostel table. Replace the calculated column with staff count. Okay, the question 1 is to calculate number of unit staff that exists in hostel table and replace it with staff count. So, this thing is mean if the question asks for the unit staff, we need to use this thing. So, and count, of course, we need to use count and replace all this as staff count, a proper name. So from hostel table, that is stated in the question. So when we run this, so the output show that there is a 10 staff ID not include the same or the repeating staff ID, because we use this thing. So there is 10 staff ID. So staff count that we replace it. So that's the output. Question 2. The hostel management give permission for all students to pay 40% of fee per semester as deposit. List the student ID and the fee after discount. Name the fee after the reduced column as deposit. Sort the result in descending order of the fee per sem. So the question states that all students can pay 40% of fee per sem as deposit, and the question 1 is to list student ID and fee after discount and rename it as deposit. And also the question 1 is to arrange the fee per sem after discount in descending order. So we write select student ID. So the question needs student ID and fee after discount and rename it as deposit. So around it means we need to total the discount, the price after discount. Okay, 0.4 multiply fee percent is mean 40%. 40% is changed into decimal is 0.4. So multiply with fee percent. This two means it's this decimal that we want as output, that we need to write as in the output. Question 3. The staff want to find the minimum and maximum fee that the student pay every semester. Display the maximum and the minimum fee per sem. So the staff want the minimum and maximum fee that student pay, so we need to display it. So we write select minimum fee per sem. Min is from minimum, and rename it as minimum fee RM, and max percent max mean maximum, and rename it as maximum fee, and of course it's from registration table. So when we run this, and the output will out like this. So minimum fee is 890 ringgit and maximum is 2,520 ringgit.
For SQL question, I will explain about join query and subquery. Before join query, the first question is list the date of fee, student first name, and student phone number of all transaction fee in between 1 April 2021 and 30 April 2021. Sort the result by date of fee ascending. And the command for this question is Alright, so from the question we have to select date of fee, student first name, student phone number. From registration R, student S, where R student ID equal to S student ID, and date of fee between 1 April 2021 and 30 April 2021, order by date of fee ascending. So when why we use registration as student, because the question need date of fee which is from registration table, and student first name and student phone number obviously from student table. So we have to join these two table to get the output. And as student ID, we use student ID because student ID is the foreign key and the primary key from the both table. And after we run it, and that is the output of the question. For second question, one of the staff wants to list student ID, student email, and fee per semester for all data that have a student ID beginning with the U. List identical rows once, order the list by student ID and then by fee per semester. So for the command of this question is, so based on the second question, we have to select a student ID, student email, fee per sem from student as registration R, whereas student ID equal to R student ID and as student ID like Q, order by as student ID R fee per sem. So as we can see from the command we use from student and registration table. This is because the question needs student ID, student email, which is from student table, and fee per sem is from registration table. That's why we have to join these two tables to get the output. And then student ID, the same like the first question, which is student ID is the foreign key and the primary key of the two table. And then order by student ID and fee per sem. Because the question want to order the list by student ID and then fee per sem. So when we run off this question, okay, that is the results of the question. For the question, the staff wants to know the details of the hostel, where the hostel name Sabah and room ID begin with E. Display hostel code, hostel name, room ID, and also staff ID that is responsible to in charge the hostel. Sort the list by room ID. So the command for this question is, okay, so based on question 3, we have to select H hostel code, hostel name, room ID, staff ID from staff, hostel, and room, whereas staff ID equal to H staff ID and H hostel code equal to R hostel code, and hostel name equal to Zaba, and R room like E order by R room ID. So as we can see from the query, we use three table because the question wants to display hostel code and hostel name, which is from hostel table, room ID from room table, and staff ID from staff table. That's why we have to join these three table into the query. And then we use staff ID because staff ID is the foreign key and the primary key of staff table and hostel table. And then we use hostel code, which is the foreign key and primary key from hostel table and room table. And then order by room ID because the question wants to sort the list by room ID. So when we run of this command, and then the result come out just like this. Next we go to subquery. The first question is list staff ID, first name of all staff and staff phone number who is not in charge to the hostel registration process. This means that the table hostel does not contain a row with their staff ID. So the command for this question is, alright, so based on the question, we have to select staff ID, staff first name, staff phone number from staff, where staff ID not in, open bracket, select staff ID from hostel where staff ID is not none, and then close bracket. So we use not in because the question wants to display that staff who is not in charge. And then when we run of the command, and then we get the output just like this. And then the second question, the staff wants to know the student who needs to pay a fee per semester from the registration table where the fee is less than 900 ringgit. List student ID, student first name and fee per semester. So the command for this question is like, from the question, we have to select student ID, student first name, fee per sem from student and registration, whereas student ID equal to our student ID and fee per sem in open bracket select fee per sem from registration where fee per sem less than 900 and close bracket. So as we can see up here, we use a joint query because the question wants to list student ID and student first name, which is from student table, and 5% from registration table. So we have to join these two table, and down here we use subquery. And when we run this query, we get the result.
Conclusion. In conclusion, our web application system that we create successfully can maintain a lot of data, such as the number of student hostel it can accommodate, hostel fee, and so on, and also make the registration process accessible anywhere to the student. We also successfully develop an integrated database system for the student college registration system of University Malaya.